Hello.
Hey, how's it going, man?
All right. Aside from internet problems, um,
Yeah,
uh,
happens.
all right. How's everyone doing? Let's see. FOMO is here. He's rebooting to fix his audio. I
Technical
had to
difficulties.
reboot and fix my internet. Um, yeah, like they replaced the line to the house through the house and gave me a new modem, still having intermittent dropouts. And then I go, look, if you trace the line from my house to the neighbors,
Hmm.
there's this like cylinder thing that wraps around the wire that's open. And there's all these twisted exposed wires inside that thing. And to me, that looks like that's probably the problem. But they don't want to send anyone out to fix
I
it
can
unless
hear you
that
guys now.
neighbor
How do
calls
I
them.
sound?
Hello?
Hey,
Hello?
hey, I hear you.
Hey,
There you go.
sounds
Now you
good.
sound good.
All right. Are we on? Are we live?
Yeah,
Yep,
you're good.
we
You
are.
sounded like you were in a cup for a second. I was scared. I was like, uh-oh.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
You're good
Everything's
now,
good
though.
now.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
All it takes is a reboot.
Yeah.
All right. So
Oh,
if anything happens on my end, because I've had to reboot my internet like 8 times today already, I will be back. But
yes. We are all here. We're ready to go. And if you're hearing any audio issues in chat, let us know because we can't hear if audios are messed up, audio levels.
yeah, just let us know if we sound matched.
Hmm.
Um, so I released the review earlier today for the QNED 90. Did you guys watch that?
Yep.
I just did
Okay.
before I got on.
All right. So, and also anyone who's watching, go ahead and start asking questions if you have any.
Yeah.
But what I have right here is a video clip of me going through the settings. I did both accurate and non-accurate, but most people would consider better looking. Um, the problem with the QNED 90 is for its price range. If you set it where it's accurate and it's following like the mid-level brightness and everything is as it should be, then the peak brightness of the highlights are not as bright as OLED, and then the blacks aren't as good as OLED. And even the QN90A, would have brighter highlights and better blacks. So there's really no reason to run this TV accurately because it's just hindering its brightness and what it does do well. So that's why I did both settings here. So I'm going to start playing this.
Okay.
All right, so starting out with SDR, first thing, just make sure all the AI stuff is disabled and the energy saving stuff is disabled. And then for the picture modes, generally speaking, the only ones to worry about would be like Cinema, Filmmaker, and then ISF, Expert, Bright, and Dark, and then the Game Optimizer. One thing that I found interesting is if the gamma is set to BT 1886, it follows 2.4 pretty much spot on. But if you drop to 2.2, it does not track 2.2. It's way too bright. So I just ended up using BT 1886 bright and dark. And then if you set the scanning to just scan and original, then there's no cropping, there's no zoom, and it shows it as it should be. So you got a couple super chats here. Jason, okay, no OLED or 8K. How close are these three LG TVs? QNED 90, 86, 86 Nano 90, 86 Nano 75, and 86 inches. Talking about picture quality, the QNED is definitely a big step up over the Nanos.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for the super chat. And then another one from you. I asked because prices are 4,000, 2,800, 1,800. Might as well go cheap if they look the same. I would say they don't look the same. The Nano does not have the mini LED, and they are both IPS. And the Nano, as far as I know, doesn't get nearly as bright. So there's a difference, but I also think the QNED is still overpriced as well.
Yeah, it does feel overpriced when you look at those comparisons.
All right, so then for the settings here in SDR, I found the local dimming at medium worked the best for SDR, and then in HDR, high was better. The medium and high are very similar. In HDR, there's less blooming on high, but in SDR, medium seemed to hold on to detail a little better. And then the TV defaults to the backlight being way too bright. 100 nits, you only need the panel brightness at like 7. and then even for like 170 nits, that's like 20. So if you have it here, panel brightness 60, that's still very, very bright. And let's see. And then if you missed the review, the SDR brightness was measuring up to 1,000 nits, same as HDR. So it doesn't really seem to matter if it's HDR, SDR. The TV does do about 1,000 nits. And then for the color, another issue with the TV is the color saturation is pretty not good. So you'll see me turning color depth up to 55 or 60 in game mode. There's assuming you're not going to be calibrating. That's even, you might want to go even higher than that. Even the color saturation, just as you can see in the review with the G1, there's just quite a few scenes where the color just isn't being pushed as much, which is kind of surprising, that being that this is a quantum dot. Motion settings, they only give you on or off for the Motion Pro, which is
Classy.
Yep.
Real quick, did you notice an improvement in the local dimming in terms of getting less blooming? If you go to that dynamic tone mapping setting, did you play with that to see if it affected the local dimming algorithm? Because on the QNED 99, Vincent noticed that significantly helped his local dimming resolution.
It was very early on that I realized that there's no reason to run the TV accurately, which would mean the dynamic tone mapping off. So pretty much always had it on. And then I even put the dynamic contrast enhancer up to low, because that also increased its brightness, noticeably. So as I go through the settings, I'll actually show that in a bit, and once we get past the SDR stuff.
SDR is good though, right? There's nothing to complain about in SDR. It sounds like this is a great SDR TV overall. Yeah,
and again, the default settings are just bad. Especially game mode, it's pushing contrast at 95, whereas it clips over 80. So just make sure your contrast is at 80 on any SDR mode. And again, the local dimming, I think medium worked best for SDR. And then you want to push your colors up just a little bit. And then also, I don't know how much you guys know about the alternate white points, and how D65 on one TV doesn't look like D65 on another type of technology.
Or rather, even the movie sources themselves weren't saying they weren't even using D65. So what's the point?
The new mastering monitors have alternate white points.
Right.
So
what's the point?
It's a big mixed just mess.
Yeah.
But on this TV, it comes at D65, but then it makes white look red, or a very pinkish red. So you have to add a bit of green and blue to balance that out. So if you see me doing the color temperature at warm 30 instead of warm 50, that's because for people who aren't going to mess with the 2-point adjustment, that's probably your next thing to try, is using like warm 30, warm 20, see if it gets rid of some of that extra red. Hey. Cat and dog are fighting. But here are the 2-point settings that I came up with by perceptually matching to the G1, which the G1 I have set to D-Nice's alternate white point, which he perceptually matched to. I believe he has a like a Panasonic Plasma and matches to that, but don't quote me on that. And then in typical LG fashion, most of those clarity settings, I don't see them doing much. The noise reductions, I saw like no change. The smooth gradation helps a little bit, but it's not much. So, all right, sorry, I'm not really paying attention to the chat too much because I'm trying to just commentate on the video. And then here,
we got it.
I think the internet might have went out for Classy. So based off of what you're hearing, FOMO.
Let's start talking since Classy looks like he's frozen. I was talking to some of the commenters about how the QNED 90 appears to be disappointing. Mr. Galindo, Sam got the QNED 90. He's like, the blooming is kind of like unacceptable for him, right? And I was like, yeah, that appears to be the issue with the IPS panel after all, because this was the same thing with the ADS panel. Am I the only one that's still? Oh, there you go. You're still on.
Because yeah.
Yeah. So maybe this is an IPS thing. I was hoping that it was not IPS specific, but if IPS is also aggravating the blooming, man, that's unacceptable. Because I understand wide viewing angle of the IPS. I get it, right? And I get that some were telling me, hey, for gaming, it has noticeably better latency and even possibly better ghosting, or rather less ghosting compared to VA. But how many people are buying these TVs? We're talking real TVs because of those three things.
Right.
So you're compromising the blooming, darkroom control, and color saturation just so you can give the farthest edge case of possibly ghosting when gaming.
Right.
Some sources, PC namely, right? And possibly wide viewing angles if you're sitting off 30 degrees. But everyone else who's sitting right in front of the TV, which I would say most people, this is a compromise. And it's not cheaper. Okay, at least with Samsung and Sony, some of their TVs that are IPS, they're attempting to bring it down to a couple of tiers, like the X80J non-50-inch model, right? It's IPS because it's trying to go under $1,000. I get it. Or the QN85A, it's trying to give you QN90A brightness for $200 less. This QNED 90 is their flagship. It should be a non-compromise, but then the response is always, well, why don't you get an OLED? And my response is, well, the OLED costs the same. The LG C10 is like $1,850 right now. So I know why LG does it. If they put the VA, we talked about it, this TV will end up being as good as a QN90A, and then people will choose it over the OLED. I mean, I would, right? Because unless I'm in a dark room, if I'm getting a QN90A for $300 less with gaming features, all day long, I'll take the QNED 90.
Yeah, well, that's the problem though, is that LG doesn't make VA panels, so they don't really have that option.
They're getting better margins because they're using their own IPS. I get it, but it's so like, oh, hello, Ninjician.
Hey, Ninjician.
We lost Classy for a bit. This is his channel, but he's nowhere to be found. He has internet, so we're hijacking his channel because we got internet problems. But see, that's the thing that kills me is I understand LG. You're making IPS panels, but supply it to your gaming partners, right? Your gaming OEMs and whatnot. But for the TVs, just bite the bullet, pay an extra $100, and get us a VA panel from AUO or Enolux or wherever, or buy it from Samsung. What does it matter? But to have 900 dimming zones and come out looking like this, it's just. It hurts because I know 900 dimming zones is really hard to do. I mean, no one does 900 right now. They have the most dimming zones on the market on a 65-inch panel, and it looks like might as well just be 100 dimming zones. Why? Right? What was the point?
For real, like it just doesn't make sense.
Hey, welcome back, Classy.
From them. Hello. Hey, Mark. Hey, there you go. Hey, Classy. You good?
Well, Brad has a great point. He's saying, hey, what if it's $1,000 to $1,500 for Black Friday? And I think that's what Classy was getting at before in his review. Is okay at $2,000, no, but at $1,500 or less, yeah. And even then, I think at $1,500, that's just about right. It's not a great deal. It's just about right. It would be a great deal if it was maybe 14, 13, 12. Now, for a gaming TV, it's not bad. Hey, Classy, tell me whenever you're ready, and I'll shut up. I just didn't know if you're ready yet.
Yeah, I'm about to call today and have AT&T add a second internet line because right now I have Spectrum and having all these problems. But
are you getting gigabit?
Only has DSL.
Are you doing AT&T gigabit?
They don't have that here. All they have is like a 25. So I'm about to just get that dedicated for streaming.
Right.
Just so it stops dropping out until Spectrum gets their stuff together.
Well, at least you'll get HBO Max, maybe. That's part of your package.
Yeah, this is very frustrating. All right, so before I go back to the settings, I heard you talking about the pricing. So what I said in my review is I think the 65, if it goes to 1,500, 2,200 for the 75, and 3,000 for the 86, that's where they should be considered. But I really think they're mostly going to be considered by really hardcore competitive gamers who play 10, 14 hours a day and don't want to risk burn in and really want to be able to see all the shadow detail and everything. Um, and then also still have a good movie watching experience.
Oh, hey, just speaking of burn-in real quick, some people mentioned that UPSI, and I'll just type it in here,
Hmm.
specifically covers burn-in. And I reached out to them and I said, hey, it says burn-in, but I want to make sure. I got a lot of people interested in getting an OLED. Your extended warranty in your materials, you do say you cover OLED burn-in, even if they're gaming, right? And they said yes. So I'm going to try to get them on to interview them more specifically, just to get it on the record with their rep on. But if you guys send them a customer service chat request, they will say that the UPSI warranty, extended warranty, will cover burn-in, and it's a bit cheaper than Geek Squad. But then, of course, Geek Squad comes to your home and does all of that. But nevertheless, if you're getting a Sony or a non-G series, right? Because I think the G1 has the extended warranty to 5 years, then UPSI is something you can consider. So just something out there for you guys who are afraid of burn-in when you're gaming.
Yeah. All right. Is it just one person who can't hear us, or is there a problem with the audio altogether?
I think it's just one person.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
me.
Ah,
All right. So the plan was to cut out the first 15 minutes of this if the settings would have played all together, but that apparently didn't happen. So I will have another video just of this playing for settings later. What's going on? Puppy and
Yeah.
cat are still fighting. All right. So anyway, we were in HDR. This was setting it up in cinema mode for accuracy. And again, I really didn't like how the factory D65 was looking. It was just too red and too pink. And then just in HDR, disabling all this stuff. Smooth gradation, HDR on low would be all right to keep on. And then the motion stuff is all personal preference. I was saying earlier, the black frame insertion is just either on or off. There's no multiple settings anymore, or like there is on the OLEDs. And then, so for Cinema Home is where I adjusted the white point and turned on HDR tone mapping, used the dynamic contrast on low. Let's see, and then here's for game mode. So in game mode, there's less you can adjust. Just make sure you're using HGIG. Although one of the bugs that I found, actually, I don't know if it's specific to this TV or if it's just HGIG in general, but it's clipping at 800 nits when the TV goes to 1,000. So that's kind of annoying. And then for gaming, I think most people would be comfortable with the color temperature at warm 30, maybe a little less. But again, warm 50 is close to D65, but just D65 doesn't look like D65 on this TV. So, all right, audio is fine.
FOMO talk real quick. I want to see if they can hear you. Nah, I can't hear anybody.
FOMO, can you hear us? KG, can you hear me?
I can hear you guys. I can hear you guys.
Okay.
I just put myself on mute real quick because my keyboard has the loud type thing. So
Okay. All right, so the game optimizer on the QNED 90, there's no G-Sync, there's no boost mode. There's only FreeSync Premium, but it does offer multiple settings for high and wide. Not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure high is if you're at 120, and then wide you would use at 60. I believe that's how it works. All right, so here we are in Cinema Home, which is what I think most people would use and prefer. So we have dynamic contrast at low and HDR tone mapping turned on, and I'll show why. So let's turn off the tone mapping. You just see everything goes real dim. And again, it's more accurate that way, but the TV can't reach its peak brightness if you turn it off. And the same thing with the dynamic contrast. It helps just to push the highlights a little bit more. And then you can see like the light gray up here in the corner when you turn off the dimming. Putting it on high has the least amount of blooming. And then color depth at 60, I think most people would prefer with HDR because of the lack of out-of-the-box saturation. And then to change the white point, had these settings for high and low. So again, I will go ahead and voice over this video later and upload that as a settings video instead of cutting it out of the stream because this stream has had too many technical problems.
Happens to the best
All
of
right.
us.
When I was gone, did I miss any super chats or?
There's just
Looks like
one
just the one right
came
now.
in.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Thank you, AF Seal. C1 user. If not gaming, is there a need for a HDMI 2.1 cable for dynamic HDR? Cheers. No. If you're not gaming or using the device like a Series X, a PS5, or newer graphics card, then you don't need an HDMI 2.1 cable. And then just here's real quick, just showing a few seconds of it playing with those settings applied. Although I'm sure through the streaming compression, it's not going to look very good. For Dolby Vision, Cinema is the more accurate mode. You don't really need to adjust too much. Just turn the local dimming up to high. So does anybody have any questions about the review or?
Oh yeah, I do. I was going to share that screenshot real quick, and I don't know if it was an artifact of your picture taking or if it really is, because I saw this in your review, so I took a screen capture, and I was going to ask you about that. So as soon as you're done, just go ahead and click on my screen share,
Okay.
because that to me looks very noticeable. Even if the other TV wasn't there, it does look off if I just had that TV, the QNED 90. So I was just going to ask you about that real quick.
Okay. Let's see. There's 2 minutes left of the settings here, so.
Yeah, just whatever.
All right. So for what I think most people would like in Dolby Vision, that'd be using the Cinema Home and setting the local dimming to high. Change the color temperature to about warm 30 or so. And then for Dolby Vision, you don't need smooth gradation or anything. Dolby Vision has increased dithering to smooth out banding. And then here you can see the true motion is grayed out. That's because the AI settings are on. So pretty much whenever you're doing settings, every input and every type of, whether it's HDR, SDR, Dolby Vision, always check those AI settings because you'll have to disable them a lot. And then whenever you have true motion enabled, it will gray out the cinema screen option. So you have to disable true motion to disable that. Here's a question about soundbars. If you guys want to answer that.
oh, sure, yeah. So I think the best soundbar under 500 is probably going to be like a Sonos Beam, or I don't know. There's another one from Samsung that's pretty good as
Or
well.
have you tried the monoprice for something? That one's
I
not too bad
haven't.
either.
No, I heard about that one though.
It's full featured, but you know.
Yeah, see, the reason why I say the Sonos Beam, I personally have it myself, so I'm kind of biased on that. But I also like that you can expand on it. So, like, if you want to add a subwoofer later, you can do that. If you want to add rear speakers, you can do that. Like, and you can add as many as you want. So, I really like that it's an expandable system. And I feel like just on its own, it's pretty good for what it is.
All right, so that pretty much covers all the settings, SDR, HDR, Dolby Vision for gaming and movie and TV watching. I see IRL is asking about the blooming off angle.
Yeah, that's a great question.
So I actually have a picture I can show. I'll show like a worst case. Where did it go?
So you're saying it blooms more from the top, right? Like from vertically and to the
Yeah,
side.
yeah, I got one right here to show. So if you're above or below, everything just goes gray like that.
Yeah.
And but if you're side to side, then it looks good.
Gotcha.
All right, so here's FOMO's picture he wanted to talk about.
You're muted again.
There we go. So the TV from the right? This is your clip, right?
Yep.
I didn't know if that is that clipping I see on the QNED, or is it just a camera exposure? Because sometimes I see that on some of my TVs. I'm like, man, I gotta call this out. This is terrible clipping, and that's what I saw on the U6G Hisense, and that's why I said, you know what, this is exactly what I saw with my Sony X80J. That would be on the left, and the U6G on the right, where it's like, what the heck is this? It's like it's local dimming completely clipped the bright part, whereas the Sony, it's not super bright, but nothing clips. Is this a clipping that we see here, or is it a camera overexposure?
It is maybe a little bit from the camera, but it is also that the TV has a problem with bright yellow.
So if this was pink or white or gray, it wouldn't be that. Oh, okay. So right there on that bottom, so that's the same thing, right?
See, like all through here.
Yeah. So you lose a lot of that color detail, a lot of that shadow detail. So this is interesting because on the one hand, we were saying how its shadow detail is great. So it's only great unless it's yellow. then you'll lose it all, right?
And it's only bright, only when it's bright yellow.
Right.
So like this was the G1. It looks clean. And then was the picture before or after right here.
Oh yeah. I did a close up of that.
You can see all the dots from the QNED.
Yeah, so let me do that. Let me do that close up of that one that you have right there. Okay, yeah. So this one, right?
That's posterization, or is that?
No. I shared the screen, so I took a close up of that. So you saw little black dots there on the leaf, right? So that's what we're talking. So yeah, that actually is definitely unacceptable. It's what is it? The crime of omission is not as bad as this adding black spots where they don't belong, and it's a little bit noticeable. So I think they're struggling with shadow detail here as well. But like you were saying, Classy, it could be a firmware fix away, because this is the first time they've tried local dimming with mini LEDs. I'm hoping.
I thought that it was from the A7 processor. That it's just
it's old. It's a
that it's
sucky
artifacting when it's with bright yellow for whatever reason. That's my guess.
Like a bug with it, maybe.
Oh, hey, definitely send this to Robert Zone, because he will send this to his engineers. Because whatever Robert catches with John, they'll send it over. But if they don't catch it, their engineers will never see it. So we're kind of like their pseudo beta testers. So yeah, this stuff like this, send it over to Robert. He'll get it to his people.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at really bright red, like I don't see any problems. I don't see any added black dots, no artifacts. No other color seems to do that. It's only really bright yellow for whatever reason. But even if you pull back and you're looking at normal viewing distance, you can still see those black dots. And then here you can see where it just adds like all these weird swirling black dots or whatever. And it's just all in bright yellow.
All right. Yeah, it seems like compared to the QN98, what did you think of it? How does it stack up?
To the QN90A?
Yeah.
Different class.
Different class. Okay, so it's priced the same, but it's just not in the same bracket.
Again, that's why I said if we ignore price, it's not a bad TV. But
you can't really
when you
ignore
compare the
though,
price, then I mean, because I mean it's.
Well, it takes us back to the TCL 8K 6 series. If you ignore the price, it's not a bad TV, but $2,200, okay. And then suddenly I have the QN90A available for the same price. I could not select that.
Yeah. It is right now. 8K is just, I don't know why they keep up like pricing it. I get it, but I also don't get it because there's no content.
Oh, I love Jay Blaze's question. That's something that we're always going to see.
Should we avoid OLEDs for gaming 4 to 5 hours a day? Fall asleep watching TV? No, that's not a problem. The only like worst case, so like I used to play when I had time 14 plus hours a day, and the same game. So if you're in that kind of scenario, then maybe. But 4 or 5 hours a day, that's fine. Falling asleep watching TV, that's fine. It's not like it was with plasma. So I was actually had comments about someone else who has a ridiculous amount of hours on his plasma before he started getting burned in. And he got lucky, I think. But I had a Samsung plasma, and Samsung's got a bit brighter, but they were more prone to burn in. And I literally left home one day with the History Channel on, come back like 6 hours later, and that H was burned into the screen. So
And
that can't really happen on OLED.
And on the older, we're talking about the newer generation, right? The Evo
Yeah.
panel. I mean, they're so optimized for burn-in guys. If it was a 2017, 2016 model, I'd be fearful. But now we're into 2021. LG has done a really good job of recognizing it. You know, they have a little bit aggressive this and that. You know, some people complain about ABL, but I think they do a really good job. I'd be definitely less fearful now, even 4 to 5 hours, because the real gamers that should be afraid are the ones that just sit there, don't eat, don't go to the bathroom, 12 hours straight, right? And then even when they go to the bathroom, they leave the TV on and they come back. So it's like running 24/7. So yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the thing about burn-in is like, even if you got it, there's a chance you might not even see it unless you run a checker. I went to my friend's house and I ran a checker on it when he wasn't looking, and I found some burn-in, but I didn't tell him about it. And for 2 years, he
Evil.
didn't know he had burn-in. He didn't know, so I was like, I'm not gonna spoil this. I'm not gonna
Right,
ruin this
right.
for him. So he didn't look. He didn't know.
All right, I just wanted to show two with the measurements on this that I showed in my review. So the 4x4W means it's a 4x4 pattern of white and black. So these were the measurements for white and then black, and that's how you get the contrast ratio. So this is how like Ratings does it. They set the backlight so that it's at 100 nits on a 10% window, and then they measure, and then you divide the white by the black level. So you can see with the local dimming off, it's typical IPS around 1,000. But the local dimming, you can see, really makes a huge difference on this TV. And then for HDR, did the same thing and got up to like 15,000. For the brightness, again, with local dimming off, it's but with it on, it's a little bit better. 1,000, 10%, 660 full screen. That's really bright for SDR.
Yeah.
And then for HDR, if you put it in vivid, then it'll go up to 1,100. Using Cinema Home, which was warm 30, I believe. That's a little bit better than 1,000, getting like 1050, but it's roughly 1,000. But here's the problem with all LCDs: these small window sizes, 0.25%. That's not even HDR range.
Yeah, I've been noticing a lot of like changes to the dimming algorithms for LCDs, where those smaller windows that they don't really measure, those are where you lose your highlights in. And it's because they're trying to control blooming, like you were mentioning.
Right.
And that's the thing about IPS too. It's like they have to like control blooming. And that's why when the local dimming's on, it's the saving grace for IPS. It's the only thing that can make IPS look good for TVs. Otherwise, you will deal with blooming.
And then I measured the G1 at 0.25% as well. It was like more than double, 760 nits.
Right.
So that's...
And that makes sense because pixel level dimming, and that's the point where technology in the OLED will win out over the LCD every day.
And that's why
measure that kind of level.
And that's why I'm saying if you are interested in an accurate image, just go OLED, especially at that price. Even if it drops to 1,500, still go OLED. You can go with the last year or discounted one for what, 1,600 to 1,800. So just pay the extra and go OLED if you want accuracy, because the TV just cannot push the highlights when it's in its accurate mode. And then even when you boost everything up, it doesn't really push the highlights as much, but at least everything else is brighter, so it just gives a brighter overall image effect. All right, Jason, thank you for the super chat. Between the 86 QNED 90 at 4,000 and the Samsung QN90A 85 at 4,000, which would you get if you game half, movie half? Definitely the QN90A. It is a higher class. I would only consider the QNED 90 if it was about $1,000 less.
Yep, I share the same sentiments, even though I've never seen the QNED. Going off of what you say and what Vincent says, and it's, to me, it just feels like it's not worth the price.
Yeah, it really is. The QN90A is the best LCD that we have. Just that's what it is.
Yeah.
The QNED 90, it's not bad, but it's not great. It's just kind of in the middle. And there's, aside from this artifacting in bright yellow, there's not really any issues if you're not going to be looking at it from above or below.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they fix the artifacting problem, and then hopefully they also patch in Dolby Vision 120. I mean, it's LG. I imagine that they will. I don't see why they wouldn't, but it could also, who knows if the processor holds it back from being able to do that. We don't know yet.
Yeah. That is a question for LG, I guess.
And YROC, we need full field and small window brightness. Yes. So in HDR, the smallest window sizes and the, let's say, like 50% and up are really important. 10% is just useless when it comes to HDR. There's just, again, they use it because that's what's used for calibrating and whatnot, and what has been used for so long. But in terms of relating to real content, it's pretty much pointless.
Mm-hmm. But how do you even like measure such a small window? Like, what do you do to do that? Do you?
The Spears and Munzel disc has a pattern where it starts out at nothing and it just keeps getting bigger. And then the bottom right corner of the screen says what percentage of the screen is filled up. So I just pause it when it gets to 0.25%.
Right. But TVs could be programmed to beat that, right? And to look.
Definitely looks like LG specifically targets 10 and 18% windows. They push those more. Like if you compare it with a Sony, the Sony is going to be brighter, 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 and then at 10%, the LG is brighter, and then as it gets smaller, the Sony's back to being brighter again.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha.
all right. So the X95J, we talked about it last stream. Hopefully, it's better than what we've seen from the early stuff, but
Well, I don't know if for anyone that missed Brian Whisper Status's interview with Robert Zahn. Robert, now he's reading between the tea leaves, but he's under the impression that maybe the X95J for North America will be a different TV than what we saw in China, possibly brighter, possibly more dimming zones. Now this is all up in the air, we'll see, but Robert Zahn is looking forward to getting possibly a better version for North America than China. But we were saying before, wait, this would cause like riots in the streets of China. So I don't know about that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. But let's just say worst case scenario, it is 60 dimming zones, and it is just a slight improvement over the 950H. But if it's priced less than the QNED 90, then I'm still gonna look at it for sure.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting to me, and I think that's lost in that interview with Robert, is he has the professional monitor version of the X95J, stripped out of all its audio, tuner, the stuff that if you plugged in an HDMI 2.1, you're just getting images. So he has that version of the X95J in smaller sizes. Now, I don't know about the price. I'm reaching out to him to see, but I'm going to try to get maybe a 50-inch or a 55-inch version of the X95J without any of that tuner stuff and see if it ends up being a better TV or not. It's supposed to be identical. But there is no 55-inch X95J though. So if the price is fair, I don't know. That might end up being an option for many of you who want X95J brightness, but smaller than 65.
It's 50-inch, you said?
It goes down to 36 because it's for professional monitor usage. So what Sony's done is taken the X80, X85, X90, and X95J and stripped it of all of its TV functions, leaving it only as a monitor. But everything else is the same as far as image quality, and provided all the sizes that a professional or a business, whatever application you want, might need it for. But again, I don't know if it ends up ironically being more expensive than the consumer TV version. If it is, then I'll pass, right? But if it isn't, hey, that's something we talked about. Strip it of everything, plug in a Roku stick or a Fire Stick, and you might have yourself a winner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's what I was saying a couple streams ago when we were talking. Like, I don't want the smart TV stuff. Strip all that out. Just give me a monitor. I'm good.
Samsung, can you imagine if Samsung or LG did that too? Strip it out of the Tizen, take out the WebOS, give us the straight up OLED or QNED or QLED. Man,
Yeah.
but then again, they make so much money on the OS. So I understand why
Mhm.
it's on there. And
True.
that's maybe why I'm thinking it might end up being more expensive, the professional version, than the consumer version with it, because it's not subsidizing the cost of the TV over years, you know?
Yep. I know. We got a super chat.
Yep. Actually, let's see. Thank you, Charlie Boy, for the super chat. How bright is a 12-year-old LCD compared to today's OLED? All this LED blooming turns me off. TV room with lots of windows, but no direct sunlights. 12 years ago, they were not bright. So
Nah.
you're all the modern OLEDs will be brighter, and with no direct light, an OLED will be absolutely fine.
Yeah, you'll be good.
And then Matt Facer, I don't know if I would buy a warranty for the Samsung. If you're worried about it, I would say just go to Costco. You'll get it for the same price with what 3, 5, 7 year warranty thrown in, depending on how you pay for it and whatever the deal is that they have for that TV. As far as picking the QN90A versus the A80J, that's going to depend on you and your use case, and if you like the really, really, really bright midtones. All right, so I threw this together yesterday for the review, and I'm thinking of just keeping this for all my TV reviews going forward. If everyone likes this layout, I didn't want to go with a point-based system that wouldn't age well, and also, if I say that gaming image quality is a 7.5, you're gonna just wonder, well, what does that really mean? So I figured a more generalization of scoring would work better, especially when prices are constantly changing, because a TV may be good for its price now, but if the price goes back up, then it's not good, or it could be bad for the pricing right now and then become better for its price if the price goes down. So I was just kind of just basing everything comparatively to other TVs that I've seen or that we've seen. And I figured this was a good coverage of the categories. And all TVs may not have an X factor, but for me, that's something that's not really measurable, or, like with the Sony or the A80J, 90J, I would say it's processing, giving that clarity. So like, how would you describe that other than like an X factor? You know. All right, Spillage Village, thank you for the super chat. Do we expect Z9J and U9DG to have better control of blooming? I have not seen the higher end 8K TVs, so FOMO, you might be able to.
So the Sonys are notorious for blooming because in their 8K, their goal is to break the brightness records, or whether it was the Z9H or Z9G or Z8H, and this year's the Z9J. They want to have the brightest 8K LCD TV you can buy. But as we know, with not enough dimming zones, even with enough dimming zones, you're still going to get blooming when you go that bright. And the Z9J, we expect it to easily hit 3000 nits peak brightness as it's done before in this series, but you don't get it for a dark room. This is very much a bright room display TV. It's like you're getting this to show it off. If you're going to get it in a dark room, you go with it. A90J, right? Because you got the 8000, you got the 10,000. But yeah, blooming is going to be a nightmare in the Z9J. It's just too bright. And 3000 nits in a dark room, it's like you're going to go blind, right? And the U90G, it's not blooming. That's the issue. The U90G, of course, will literally have the best blooming control because it's got 1080p dimming zones, but will it get bright enough? Its expected price point is, let's say, 3,000, right? Let's say they get realistic and they put it at 3,000. That's a 75-inch TV. Well, for a little over 3,000, you have the A80J. Can the U90G at 1,000 nits peak brightness, is that better than the A80J 77-inch? And if it is as good, okay, you're saving a few $100s, maybe. But if it isn't, then its existence is in question. Why is it even here? So Those are my considerations, and we're not even talking burn at this point. Like as we said, burn should not be a consideration. The U90G is not a gaming machine. The A80J is not a gaming machine. So you're not gaming, not even an issue for burn.
All right. Gonna do a few more questions. We'll probably call it in about 10, 12 minutes. This was just a short follow-up stream to the review and had some technical difficulties. But I know KG is gonna have another stream later tonight. That one I'm sure will run longer. Gonna try and make it. And then FOMO, you have one tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Like around, was it 5 p.m. your time maybe, or 6 p.m. I haven't decided yet, but yeah, something like that.
Okay. Yeah. For me to make the beginning, it would have to be about 6.
Okay. Yeah, we can do 6.
Mine will be at 4 p.m. Pacific time today, like usual.
All right. Well, it looks like CMB is getting a massive, massive upgrade here.
Yeah. That is a huge upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
Like go from a 50-inch to an 83-inch modern TV. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you'll be very happy.
Oh, Matt, in addition, if you're still here, I just now got your message if you want to join. Looks like that came in a little bit ago, but I had my phone on silent.
I think he said in an hour though, so I don't know if you'll still be around by the time he's available.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. Nope. And then this one, Eddie, Costco's going to have the 75-inch X90J for $18.50 next month. Is this a good price? That definitely looks like they're dropping the price because the X95J is coming out. At $18.50, I'd say it's certainly a more attractive and better price. I don't know, I'm just trying to remember last year. I know last year the X900H was $1,000 for the 65 and $2,000 for the 85. And
that's it. $2,000 for the 85. To me, the X900H for $2,000 for 85-inch. That continues to be my favorite deal of the year.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if they still have them though.
No, yeah, they've been. The minute it hit 2,000, it's sold out right within like a week.
Yeah, so the 75-inch X900H last year had gotten down to, I want to say, $16.79. So I think Costco may push this a little bit closer to that. However, if you just want to buy now and enjoy it, and that's the TV you want, then go for it. I mean, it's maybe $100 or $200 more than the lowest you'll probably see it.
Yeah. Well, that kind of brings up the value of the X90J because you said how the QNED 90, it becomes a consideration if it's in the $1,500 mark. Where is your X90J price target for, hey, you know what? This is worth it. $1,200, $1,100, $1,000. I know with the X900H, I think it had to be at around $1,000 or just below $1,000. Do you think the X90J, do you want it to be about the same price before you think it's a buy?
I think the X90J is if you're a gamer, it's a decent upgrade over the 900H because 4K 120 works. Mm-hmm. If you're not a gamer, then there's not much difference between them. So I wouldn't pay more than what the 900H had gotten to last year. It was a little bit brighter, like a little bit brighter. So yeah. Wait.
So what TV excites you the most this year, Classy? I think all the exciting TVs are out now, and I'm going to leave the X95J out as a quote-unquote exciting TV. It's a promising TV, but I don't know about exciting. So of all the TVs you've seen this year or heard about, for the both of you, what has left? Like this is such a good TV, like the best impression that you go back to if cost was no object. Recommending reasonably, right? Because otherwise everyone would say the A90J, but reasonably speaking.
I think the 77A80J, which comes on Monday, is like,
congratulations.
That's my pick of the year. I mean, I think for the overwhelming majority of people, a 77A80J is going to fit the most needs, and more people will be happy with that than just about anything else. The G1 is very, very, very close to it. And if you're a gamer, it's the one to get. It's just comes down to, do you want to pay the extra for the warranty and the gaming features?
How about you, KG?
Yeah, I'm kind of between the two OLEDs as well. I think that the A80J provides a really good value for what it is because you kind of get a sound system built in. So like if we're talking about what you get for the price you pay, it's hard to beat the 77-inch A80J for sure. I really do like the C1 and the G1 as well. So it's just gonna come down to what you need in terms of those TVs. But like if you're just looking for like the best all around bang for your buck, it's probably gonna be the A80J. Like if you're not considering a sound system and you just want a whole package, that's probably the go-to.
All
I
right.
like the QN90 as well. So I think all three of the big TVs, like the big three, they all
So
have like their own like plus sides to it, and it's hard to nitpick at that
yes.
range.
So it sounds like the flagships really hit their target this year. Like last year, there was some disappointment with like the Q90T, right? Obviously, and even the 900TS last year was a disappointment. But it sounds like this year the flagships hit their mark. I agree with you guys. You know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I liked the Q90T last year, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yo,
That's the TV I ended up buying. I just actually like that TV a lot.
Hey, we hear you,
Um,
Magician.
And
I-
to me, like when it comes to
cool. Let's make sure it
gaming,
works.
oh yeah, we hear you. I really like Game Motion Plus. Like, I know that's not talked about nearly enough, but Game Motion Plus to me is such a selling point for gamers, and I wish that LG like embraced this and other companies as well because um, when you put the Game Motion Plus on a 60 frames per second game, it feels like you're playing it at 120 frames per second. Like I was playing Need for Speed Remastered, and it felt like I was playing like Dirt 5 on 120 frames per second. The feeling that you get, and you can replicate the same thing with Call of Duty, but you know there's 120 FPS mode in that already. But you could still put it on Game Motion Plus in 60 frames per second, and it'll feel like you're in 120 hertz. So I think that's such a unique feature that is not talked about enough for gamers. So
LG's got that cinematic motion that improves motion resolution and does that same kind of thing. So yeah, it'd be really nice if they could figure out how to interpolate it like that, but still keep the input lag down.
yeah, exactly.
Yep. All right. So, Ninjishin, did you see the QNED 90 review? Do you have any thoughts on the QNED 90?
I watched your review this morning. I think the best thing that you touched on was the fact that you can't have it both ways. You can get really good full screen brightness, but you're always going to fight against that specular highlights just due to the fact that it's trying to control blooming. So 912 zones sounds like a ton, but in reality, when you're on a pixel field of 8 million, it's still not quite enough to get those glints, those really tight details. So that's the thing. Like backlights will always have that issue. You got to go control versus brightness.
Mm-hmm. All right. So J Patterns asking if the A80J gets VRR support in December like it's supposed to. How much does it close the gap for the C1G1? I think that pretty much puts it there as long as it's good VRR support. Like we're hoping for
Yes.
FreeSync Premium at least.
Mhm.
You know, we really want that wide range. And if they do it, great. That would be awesome. They're saying, or they're telling Robert anyway, that they're holding off because the HDMI CEC standard is changing and the eARC standards are changing and they want to just bundle it all into one update. I don't know,
I don't know about
why,
that.
but
I'm
we-
skeptical, but
yeah.
I'll take it.
I just hope that it doesn't implement other issues. Like, didn't the Panasonic, when they added VRR, didn't they say, all right, here's VRR, but you have to cut the resolution in half?
Mm-hmm. That's
That's what I'm worried about.
It's just there are a lot of compromises, and yeah. I just think if you're a gamer, get like you said, get two TVs, get an LG for gaming, OLED, a C10, whatever, and then get something bigger for your movie watching. But if you try to combine both, you got to choose your poison, and then you end up with a compromise both ways.
I love
right.
gaming on that 48. Like when you sit that close, it feels way bigger than it is. Like it's a perfect gaming TV.
Yeah, I agree. That's the thing. 48's huge if you're sitting 2 to 3 feet away, which is why would you sit far? You get 85-inch. Yeah,
And
I agree.
that's why I'm looking for a good wall mount because I'm going to use it for a monitor. So I want to be able to push it right up against the wall, but then I want to extend it all the way and then turn it like 90 degrees towards the couch. So that way I could still game on the couch, but still sit at the desk if I want to.
The Sanuses are the few ones that have wall mounts that go out to 28 or even 30 inches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The 48 inch is 42 inches across. So if you cut that in half, it needs to come out 21 inches.
There you go. Sanus will do that.
Yeah. And it looks like David Whelan may have made his decision on the A80J. So good job. That's what I've been
Black
telling him he
Friday.
could get.
Black Friday, 77-inch.
All right. Looks like we have another super chat. Thank you again. Is the latest C1 firmware recommended? Unboxing the 83 this week. I haven't seen any issues with it, other than the CEC may have been affected by that update, but then it fixed itself and probably isn't an issue for most people. Matt, have you had any issues with the latest firmware? Or are you still on one of the beta ones? Don't know if he's still there. All right. Yeah, you should be good to go.
Yeah, it looks like he's just like stuck in a deep thought. He is just like in the deepest thought right now.
Yeah,
or the cops are pulling him over. He's like threw his phone to the side.
MLG is just a joke. Major League Gaming, like, it's just because it's the gaming aspect of it. I was trying to come up with, instead of just saying excellent, I was just trying to be creative and think of for different categories of something else that you could say is a higher tier than good.
Right, guys. Okay, I have another appointment I have to jump on real quick, but it was good to see you guys.
Yeah, good to see you.
And we'll talk later. I'll try to see what I can do. Jump on, maybe.
Oh, yeah, if you want to jump on.
But I have an appointment this afternoon, so I don't know if I can. So
yeah, no problem.
All right, catch you guys later. Thanks, everyone.
All right, thank you later.
Bye, guys.
All right. So yeah, going about an hour now. This was just going to be a pretty short one, just to go over the QNED 90 and see if there's any more questions. So I think we're pretty much going to call it, unless there's any last second questions to come in.
Yeah, and remember, we're going to be back. Oh, I'll be back, and you're probably going to join, right? You're going to try to join?
Yeah, most likely I'll be there. It's just traffic around here has been just ridiculous lately for whatever reason. So, and I have to go like an hour away and come back at 6 o'clock. So it's going to cut it. But.
And you're going to upload the settings again.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to do a whole settings video instead of trying to cut it out of this, because
it's all good. Technical difficulties, man. It happens to the best of us.
All right, Matt's back.
Yeah, he's back. You were stuck on this like screen. You looked like you were in the deepest thought.
You were frozen.
Oh, no wonder. So I went to another tab. So I was going to tell FOMO I'm literally up in his neighborhood doing calibration work today. And the stream's actually been really nice as I've been driving up. It's about a 2-hour drive through LA traffic, which sucks.
Yeah.
But no, I really appreciate the stream. It's kept me engaged while I'm on this drive.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Before many LEDs on Samsung and LG, people were complaining about light leakage on top and bottom letter bar. All right. So the bars on the QNED 90 are very dark black, although just literally where the bar starts, for maybe a quarter of an inch or so into that bar, top and bottom, you can see blooming, but it's a very small section of it. The rest of the bar is pure black.
One of my big questions when I used to sell these TVs was, do you watch things with subtitles? Because if you do, you're probably not going to be satisfied with the TVs that have full array local dimming. You're going to notice the blooming.
Yeah, I use subtitles, and it actually did pretty well with the subtitles.
Good.
So there's very minimal blooming around the subtitles.
Nice.
At least when the local dimming is on high.
Of course, you get the reverse problem on OLED where your subtitles are super, super bright too. Like in a dark room, sometimes that can be annoying.
That's a problem that I have with the G1. Like if it's really dark and it's dark scene subtitles are on, they're very, very bright. But it seems like the QNED was dimming down the brightness of the subtitles.
There's workarounds. Like you can go to the Apple TV settings and do the subtitle appearance because those are universal and set it to like 50%. And Netflix is super hard to do. You got to go through Netflix's website, go to the subtitle appearance, drop those down. Then they're really hard to see in SDR, but really easy to see in Dolby. It's a pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to make sure I don't get lost, so I'm probably going to hop off stream.
Yeah, I'm about to end it anyway.
All right.
So.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Good seeing you.
All right.
Later.
All right, and everyone else, thank you all for coming. Check back later on Tech with KG channel for his stream, and then tomorrow on Pass the Remote. So
4 p.m. Pacific time. Hope to see you guys there.
Yep.
So,
all right.
thanks everybody.
Yeah, thank you all again, and have a good one.